Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to order at this point. I understand, I was just told that there's a Board of Ed meeting tonight, so I would expect that those members won't be here or will be late. I also know that Greg Caribbean will not be here this evening. He notified me earlier. But with that said, we still have a quorum at this point. Peter Gauthier, Greg Velassi, Stacy Gould, Joe DeLucia, Sheila Hayes, Cindy Beauregard, and myself are all present for the meeting as voting members, so, for the record. The meeting is being held via Zoom also. As such, all votes taken will be via roll call, and the meeting is being recorded. So the first order of business, second order of business, approval of minutes from the previous meeting. We should have minutes from the March 21st meeting.
So moved to approve.
Moved by Peter Gauthier. Is there a second? Second by Sheila Hayes. Any additions or corrections? Now, there was a couple of corrections that were forwarded to me from Mike Driscoll that he noticed, and those, I think, corrections have been made.
I'm gonna make them. Peter sent me some, and then Principal Rose sent me one.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I forgot to mark it. I didn't know who was on.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, Peter Nystrom is also here. We have Matt, looks like we have Matt Brown from the staff, and Chris LaRose is on also, so I'll note that.
Just one quick, so I did provide some grammatical.
Yeah, there's.
She's got them. What, at the bottom of paragraph 4A, it looks like there's just something missing, and I couldn't figure it out from my notes. Four, thank you. CSG met with Matt regarding facilities.
Matt and Mark.
Oh, maybe it's Matt and Mark. Okay, that's one.
No, Matt Warzika and Matt Brown.
Oh, Matt Brown, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Two Matts.
I should have written, regarding facilities and IT infrastructure, period. Then it goes on, it says, Mike stated the educational specs will be a description of every space in the building. It just seems like something got missed there when he was doing his presentation. I don't know if anybody can help with that.
I don't know.
Not offhand. Sometimes the conversation does jump around.
Oh, yeah.
I'm taking a record of what's.
Yeah, so it's not, it's not a deposition.
I know that. I
The
just
minutes, yeah, I know. You could just say what was voted on in the meeting, and that would be fine. Bill Hull just came in.
Oh, nice. I'm good.
We got someone else on the. Any other additions or, like I said, there were some corrections that were sent in. They've been made for the record. I guess we'll go around. This is on the minutes. Some corrections were sent in. So, Bill, everybody's here. It's voting, right? So, you want to vote on the minutes?
Yeah.
Yay?
Yes.
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 Greg?
Yes.
Stacy, yes. Joe, yes. Sheila, yes. Cindy, yes. Myself, yes. And it's from March 21st or past with corrections. All right, so I left my chairman's report on the agenda. I thought about taking it off because really I didn't do a whole lot this month personally. I think that, and this is the way it should be. So we're paying an awful lot of money to somebody to do some stuff. So I will say that the big thing, obviously, that we're trying to move forward on is the review of correspondence. Well, I'm not even going to review the correspondence. The Cropper GIS stuff to update basically the pre-K numbers for the project, because I think that's a number that's in question. So, but I'm going to let Mike talk about that, or Mike and Jim talk about that stuff, what's gone on there. because I've got about, I don't know how many emails sitting in my box that went back and forth on some of the stuff, but we made some progress there. I will say what did happen, we have on the agenda to approve bringing them in, but the city has authorized us to move on that issue. So already, rather than, we weren't waiting for the meeting to get that approval, but it is on the agenda for approval, and I do have the memo and the information backing that up as part of the package that was sent to you last week. So so I think with that said, we're going to go right to CSG. Mike and Jim.
Yes. So we know.
Why don't you come on up here and we got another there's a chair over there. Well, a chair there, or chair here, yes, chair here, whatever. You can.
Thank you.
I just want you within range of, come, so you're in range of the mic and people can hear you.
See you.
And see you even.
So our staff, myself, Jim, Roger LaFleur, our educational specialist, met with Dr. Stringfellow and Robert Serpensky. It had to have been about 2 weeks ago to review the enrollment reports and the educational specifications draft that they have been working on. And one of the main items that we needed to work through the grant applications was confirmed enrollment numbers. At your previous meeting, we had kind of discussed that the pre-K enrollment looked like it was a little low compared to what they currently have. We also did some investigation based on Mayor Nystrom's comments about the school readiness grants that the city receives, and had some discussion with the superintendent's office about that school readiness program. While it didn't directly impact any of the enrollment reports, what did come out of the meeting was that the enrollment reports did look light to the Board of Education at the 134 number that Cropper had in their report. So in looking at that, they felt that the number was going to be closer to 200, potentially 225. So what we did was we tried to get some more information from Cropper, and then asked them what it would take to update the enrollment reports. So almost every component of the grant application ties back to those enrollment reports. It's going to dictate the size of the building and state reimbursement based on the size that you're building to, and all the other forms that are required for the grant application need to tie back to those numbers. So what we did is we reached out to Cropper GIS to get a proposal to update the master plan enrollment reports that they had provided to DRA, and that's what Mark was referencing and what the memo goes towards. That's in your packet.
Did they explain why it was, that figure was so low?
They did not, Cropper GIS. I don't know the exact methodology that they used or what transpired during the meetings when they were drafting the first enrollment report, but given that, the deadlines in front of us, getting the price felt like the right option to.
Yeah, that's right.
They were using averages, and I know that much, and 2 of the years that the enrollment study had encompassed were COVID years where the district had much less enrollment than what they currently have this year. And we were kind of clued into it when the superintendent's office provided us the current enrollment reports for the year when we met with them the first time to kick off the educational specifications. And when we kind of looked at it, they said that those numbers were low. And then when we saw, I think they're enrolled up over 200 right now, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And if that's now, we just want to benchmark that trend and make sure that the numbers will stay at that level, or, if they're going to go up, that the new spaces are built large enough for what the anticipated enrollment would be.
What's their school readiness grant set at?
I have, as part of the packet, there was a basic handout that we were given. I think it should just I think I included that. It was attached, or maybe not. Did the draft educational specifications in those meeting minutes? Hold on.
I sent what I had from you.
Those are specs. The grant's the grant. So when you put a school readiness grant in, you're guaranteed certain amount of funding for slots. So
Yeah,
do you know what those slots are?
I don't, but
All right, that's fine.
I'm just trying to pull up the hand. It wasn't the numbers, it was just kind of the rationale
All right.
behind it. Trying to see if there's anything.
Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe Norwich's
Good.
ready slots are 314. 7 were just taken away for lack of use. Parents aren't sending their kids to the daycare facilities as they used to. They have not returned to full numbers. That's the current numbers right now. I can't speak to next year's.
Several daycare places closed, so
67 school day / school year slots at 6 hours a day, 19 slots in the community and 48 in NPS, 85 part day school year slots, all with NPS. And it says total of 110 school readiness slots in community programs and 205 in NPS, grand total of 315.
205, the slots in the district.
That's what this, and then it says NPS currently has a Smart Start grant for $75K a year for a class of 15. I believe this grant continues for one more year and then sunsets. As I mentioned, there could be 18 children in a classroom, teacher and one para, then we'd need to shift our practice to and begin to indicate para support and IEPs. Classroom bathrooms would be key for success, which is in the ed specs. And this is from Jenna, and I believe she manages I don't know her last name, but I believe she manages the pre-K program for them. So this was something that I wanted to discuss with everyone. Having heard Mayor Nystrom's comments, you know, it's something that I think we should information to them until I had spoken to you guys.
questions?
So the number we should be using is 315 or the 220?
No, because 315 is the community.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, 315 is with the community and 205 is in the schools. And that's just currently. So what Cropper GIS has been engaged to do is the same thing that they did for
My
the
question, yeah, okay, so what number we're going to be using it?
Cropper GIS is going to establish that number based on a variety of trends that they analyze as part of the enrollment and demographics. Mm-hmm.
And then also look at birth rates and make assumptions based off those birth rates to come up with future enrollment for pre-K.
I know Mike had some communication just getting started with the Deanna Roads regarding housing projects, housing starts in the community. So those are another issue that we'll get they'll
Yeah.
take it into.
We just approved 17 last night.
And then the influx of potential people to the city through electric boat was mentioned by DA.
So this seems like a huge error. Is this a reasonable error for them to have made, or we're going to, that they should just go change the report on their own? Or are we paying the $7,000 to compensate them for not?
Redo it.
Not having the background as to how and what information that they were provided for or provided with up front, it'd be difficult for me to answer that. I wasn't part of that master plan process, so I don't know what assumptions and analysis they did to get to this point. For the $7,000, they're also going back and just, now that it's 1 year out from the last time they did it, and looking at the district-wide enrollment and all of the grades, just as a benchmark to make sure that those numbers are still holding. So, that's something that the state's gonna like to see when we.
Like, the fresher the numbers, the better.
Yeah.
I'm good with all that.
It's almost worth it for that.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's more than just a look at the pre-K. We just noticed that the pre-K, there was a larger discrepancy in that number. It's a holistic look at the enrollment for all grades throughout the district. So the state, when we submit the grant application, they'll want to see, the most recent enrollment report, and it's better, closer to the time when we're submitting the grant application rather than something that's a year old.
It's good to me. No, go ahead.
Also remember that enrollment study was probably one off year. If you're talking about pre-K enrollment now, those kids were 1 or 2 years old, a couple years ago. So it would be hard to predict how many 1 or 2 year olds are out there.
I think at that point in time, though, we didn't have a lot of kids in the pre-K program. We didn't have as many kids in the pre-K program, though. If I'm not mistaken, a few years ago.
No, at one point there was like 300 something.
Well, they had applications for
That was
that,
a while ago.
but I don't think we had actual space for them.
No, were there 10 classrooms at Bishop? And there was one, let's see, no, and
I think
then
it's 15 in a class.
18. And then they had 4 classrooms at K Street.
Maybe it was.
I'm good with going forward. I would like to hear, just subsequently, for general information and I'll say accountability of.
No, I think it's good. Certainly a
Well,
question you can pose to them, Mike.
Did we give them bad numbers, or did they not do due diligence in doing their homework, or?
I'll reach out to them and find out exactly how they came up with the 140 to 34 figures.
Oh, Sheila.
So, if I could get a brief explanation as to, when I read this, I'm a little confused based on what we're talking about tonight, where it says the professional fees for the project are $12,000, including expenses for the school level forecast, and $7,000 for district level forecast by grade.
So if they did it by individual school, then it would be 12 grand. If we just do it as a district, then it's 7.
And it's much faster. And the reason that.
But is it as accurate is my question.
The district level report would encompass the numbers from the school level report. So rather than analyze each individual building, some of the buildings will be taken offline. So the enrollment on an individual school by school basis is more or less not as relevant to us as what the district totals would be for the different grade levels.
We're gonna redistribute the kids anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so as long as they're going to end up being just as accurate.
Yeah, yes.
Whether it's school-based or district level.
Because we're doing all the schools technically.
Okay, so
You just won't know what the enrollment would be at Mahan after it goes offline, which is before the end of the enrollment
It's kind of
study.
irrelevant.
Yeah,
So it will still cover breakout pre-K,
yes.
first grade, second grade. It'll be by grade, just not by school. So we'll go down to that detail level.
We say $5,000.
Pardon me?
We say $5,000.
And the more important thing to
Time.
me is a bunch of
time.
weeks.
Yeah.
So 2 savings.
Timeline.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
You said faster.
Yeah.
How much
yeah.
faster? 5 weeks.
It's right in the proposal and the timeline.
I saw it in there.
Yeah.
There's just
It was,
like about a month or so.
yeah.
Final question on this, then, depending on the outcome of the report, will it help? And I'm trying to go back to the conversation we were having where we wanted parity in the elementary schools. Would you anticipate that would help with that
And
argument?
that's one of the reasons why we wanted to look at it district-wide rather than individual schools.
Yeah, knowing that you're redistributing all the students among the various new elementary schools next year and then the fourth the year after.
Democrat.
Appropriately based on the size of students that are becoming.
So that would then, another way to say that would be that we'll be able to stay with our master plan, that the idea that the schools would be relatively the same.
Exactly, and that's why we.
Up here is
Master
2,500.
plan and even distribution throughout the 4 new elementary schools. And again, that's why
They only
we
did
felt
it.
that doing it district-wide, rather than each current school, was the better way to go because, we're looking at, again, parity to distribute the students evenly throughout the new 4 elementary schools.
Why would it help out with parity? Because you're gonna take a base number, increase it by 100, just for talking purposes, increase it by 100, but the differential that existed previously is still.
Be 100 slots short or something.
So if you have, I don't know, let's just say, for easy numbers, you had 8,000 elementary students, or 2,000 elementary students, excuse me.
Well, was it 30?
Was it
24? Yeah, somewhere 25.
2,400, you're gonna divide that, between 4 schools.
No, I understand all that, but previous, the original numbers we had, that we were working with, before the pre-K question came up, there was a differential. And what came up at the last meeting was that because of when we hit our peak, which I think was 2405.
Excuse me, yes.
There's a differential between what the first 2 schools would be built to size to.
Right.
So
That's part of that.
So why would this help in the parity question?
Well, because we'll have, first of all, I think, again, what we stated earlier is that Crawford GIS report might be 2 years old. So we want to get fresh numbers, especially since we're going to be submitting the grant application. We need real numbers that were based off of enrollment this past year. But the second thing is, again, we want to see if those numbers are holding true, especially with their projection out in years or further, because we would like, again, what we stated at the last building committee meeting is we want parity among the 4 schools. So if it's 2,400 students, we want to break it up between the 4 schools.
Numbers come back, the only thing that you change is to add in the pre-K.
Say we had 100, that means we'd need at least 2 more classrooms per school.
Got all that. Relative to parity, which was the discussion from last time, wouldn't you still have the situation in which the first 2 schools are being built for, and I'm just making numbers up, for 2,300 total
That's a
population?
different issue.
And then,
That's a different issue outside of,
but that was the discussion we were having at the last meeting.
Yeah, no, but that's not part of this discussion.
Well, correct. Yeah, but we.
Parity is a separate
That was the
issue.
question.
If you start with, though, you need to start to have parity, you need to start with a good number though.
I'm good with all getting a number.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to
I
answer
know, I get it.
Sheila's comment that it doesn't seem to me that unless the numbers change in some way, to your point, that this new number comes in, which would be good, get you that. And it's 2 years later, but it won't affect the parity discussion we had from the last meeting where the potential.
No,
That's a
it's
separate, that's a separate discussion.
But the size of the schools, in order to achieve parity, could change.
Correct.
But that wasn't, if I understood Sheila's
Right.
question.
That was what I was asking.
Okay, so we've reached out to the state regarding to try and see, since there's a plan to build 4 schools all right in a row that are all elementary schools, to try and, you know, because the enrollment report is going to project the total student population. So, you know, that will have to be another discussion to get the state to buy in that we want them all to be the exact same size.
Okay, so we could still end up with,
Yes,
the numbers may just increase, but they may still have the different populations from the first 2 years versus the,
well, potentially the way that it would go, because we're submitting a grant application for Greenville and Stanton this year. That if no permission from the state, the Greenville just be, they would get larger and larger. Meaning Moriarty would be larger than the first 2, and then Uncas would be larger than the 3 before it, and look before. Now, when we get the demographics and enrollment report update from Cropper, those numbers could shift in a different direction depending on what the trend looks like.
well, how,
And also, Sheila, I mean, you were there, I think. Were you at the last DTC? You were there, right? Yeah, so no, so certainly, you know, we brought it up with Senator Austin, you know, that some of these things are going to be coming up down the road, but obviously, until we get specifics, you know, we're not really able to talk too much about it. So.
okay, then let me,
Because I think, to be honest with you, I think the solution's probably going to be legislative.
and I'm trying to understand what this report that we're asking for, that we're gonna pay additional money for, is going to give us to help support. So, so one of the other discussions we were having was, and I don't know if it was this group or some other group, that they were projecting our enrollment was going to decrease. And I said, I don't believe that. Every time
They were
a
pretty
group
flat.
comes,
Wasn't it?
no, it was a decrease, go flat or a decrease, but I'm telling you, but I remember being a decrease. Every time we paid for that kind of study, within a year or two, especially in what we were just talking about, we're increasing housing, the job market is improving. And then we have the swing go the other way. So my question is, was this the group, or was it some other study that gave us the numbers decreasing?
I think
This group gave from 2022 to 23 an increase to 2031 to 32, an increase of 86 students over the 10-year period.
Slight increase.
It's been consistent for the last 2 years, at least in our discussion.
Okay.
And even before, when we were doing the facilities review, when we were talking about some of those numbers. So, in
Okay,
fact,
but based on what we know today, if you're saying this was 2 years old, based on what we know today, would you anticipate?
well, based on what we know today is why we're asking
Yeah,
Cropper
it's-
to.
It's difficult to answer that, right? I mean, now,
Besides,
now that, now that we're
Yeah, we're
working,
never gonna
now
know.
that we're working with everyone, and we've,
I'll get back to you.
it's an educated
we've gained-
guess.
We've
Right.
gained
It really is.
more information, you know, potentially relating to the school readiness program. That's something that can be analyzed. You know, yeah. It's really hard to say, right? I mean, they look at everything now, so, I mean,
Well, and since the last report, there are new things happening in our community with housing and with the jobs that this report would include. So
They're
this,
already asking
okay.
about that.
Yeah.
so that, I think, answers the greater question. I think there will be an increase, as you're already predicting, as we've experienced in the past.
Okay.
I think we can,
You're probably one of maybe 2 or 3 districts in the whole state that is increasing in enrollment. Everybody is decreasing.
I think we can conservatively expect that the numbers for the pre-K will be larger than the 134 that they had. I mean, the other grade ranges may change slightly up or down.
How many houses going up around me? So there'll be more.
But yeah, that is one aspect that they, and I think there was an email that came out today or yesterday to Crocker.
Yeah.
Demographic consultant was asking about housing starts and who to talk to about that.
That was when
They are
Deanna got.
looking at
Okay.
So we're trying to, anyone that would have insight into this, get them linked up with Cropper to, provide any insight that might be valuable to assist in the enrollment.
Yeah, I mean, that would be Deanna, though. That's the person
Yeah.
probably. You got the right person right there. All right, anybody got anything else regarding this issue? Okay, let's go, just go on. Well, I have public comment on the agenda. I don't know if there's anyone in the public that we have here. If there's anyone online, doesn't look like it, so we will. Did you have anything? I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
No,
just the other agenda items.
Okay, yeah, since we get to one. So then we'll go on, discussion and action on Cropper GIS. So I'd like a motion to or to update the enrollment projections.
With the dollar figure?
The $7,000 with the $2,000 contingency that I noted in the email to everyone before. Potential $2,000 contingency.
Well, why give them a contingency up front? Make them come back and ask
No, I
for
mean,
it.
they would, but it would.
Well, why do we need them to make a presentation of the report?
So we don't probably, that's what that's for, so.
So we've done this type of work in a lot of other communities, and I didn't know how the authorization process works in Norwich versus some of the other communities that I work in. So in some of the other communities that we work in, if a committee authorizes a $7,000 figure, and then that needs to be increased for any reason, you would then have to go back to the authorizing board to get the contract increase. So obviously, the $2,000 wouldn't be spent. I would bring it to you guys for approval, but I figured that it may fast track the process a bit.
Yeah, I think we're probably okay with the 7, but because I don't think we're gonna need a formal presentation. We just need the damn numbers.
Yeah.
So.
Simplifies things.
So
Agreed.
Just give me a piece of paper. We
And
can
write a number on it. Right, write a number on it.
So, anyway.
Best guess.
So going forward, I will not add contingency. I didn't.
Well, not for that anyway,
Okay.
so contingency is generally a good idea. I don't think that's a bad idea, so, in general, so, all right, so I'll need a motion for that. We'll just say the $7,000, if we have to, we'll come back.
So just the first.
So also authorizing the school committee to enter an agreement with Cropper GIS in the amount of $7,000 to update the district-wide enrollment reports to support a grant application to the State of Connecticut Office of School Construction Grants.
Is that your motion?
By Stacy
That it is.
Gould.
I'll second that.
Very good. We get all that? Good.
Good motion,
Yeah, but it's
Stacy.
right on the-
Well done. Get that on the fly. Nice job.
I am not,
Good for that.
So we just
Second,
did
I
number
can't even
one.
see the words.
yes.
Second, who's the second?
Mr. Hall.
So Hall for the second. Any other discussion on the matter? I think we beat it to death in the.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Joe.
What's the funding source?
From the, well, that's a good question. I
Because-
think there's it's going to be charged to the project. So, but if we can get reimbursement for it, we will get reimbursement for it. So I think there's some question about that right now,
Right,
whether it will be a
because
reimbursable expense.
Yeah, because, I mean,
It'll be
this
either
committee
city-
has, you know, budget under the city council.
It'll be, yeah, it's not a committee expense, it's a project expense. It's gonna be,
Charge.
one way or the other. It's either gonna be, the city either foots the whole bill or part of the bill. It's part of the project. Anything else? Any other questions? All right. To the question, Bill Hull.
Yes.
Yes.
Peter Gauthier.
Yes.
Greg, Joe. Sheila.
Yes.
Cindy, yes. Mark, yes. Passes unanimously. All right. So as I mentioned in my email, first of what will be many invoices, not just from CSG either as we go along. Generally speaking, this is what the, payment for items in the project are gonna take this kind of format where we'll be invoiced for something. We'll approve the invoice and it'll go to finance to be paid. So, and they'll be dealing with those issues. So, but basically, usually, we're gonna work usually on COs, invoices, whatever, so it's gonna be that kind of, we'll approve the item and it will go to finance. That's usually how it's gonna work.
And that's a meeting? It's a finance committee meeting where they
No,
approve it, or
No,
just?
no, we approve it here and it
Okay.
goes to Josh.
All right.
Josh and
Okay.
Company.
Okay.
Goes to Josh and Company with information.
And just so, obviously, CSG, we're not gonna sit here and approve our own invoices, although,
Right.
we do approve them, but,
You approve of them.
But in the future, we will review invoices from the consultants, for instance, the architect, the construction manager, the commissioning agent, and any other consultants related to the project. We will review those to make sure that the work is done, the invoicing is proper for the work completed, and then present those to you for approval.
Will we get a financial update versus how much money we have left versus spent?
Sure.
On a monthly basis?
Yeah, for the whole project.
Yep. Okay.
Because right now we're working with large figures that don't have a lot of breakdown to them, right? And unless someone could provide that to me, like I have figures, like I think 60 million thereabouts for each one of the 3 schools that we're tasked with, but I don't really have a whole lot of allocation as to how that 60 million is broken out right now, other than what was in the master plan report.
It's about what we got right now.
So like when we do the grant application, different categories like architectural design, professional services, construction, and then at that point, we'll have something that'll be constantly updated.
Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know if anyone else here has reviewed the final report from DRA. I have not. So I'll be honest about that. I don't know if Jim or Mike, if you've taken a look at it.
Yeah,
I don't know if any of that information is in there or. Only had the total.
Okay,
Basically, it's all-
so the estimates that ONG had in there, but they weren't, if I remember right, and I looked at so many of these different reports, I don't remember at what level of detail the categories were in, so, and when we do the grant application, there's another estimate that'll be done that'll give us really closer figures to what it's actually gonna cost. I mean, there'll still be unknowns, like as the, when we bid the construction, when we bid the architect, when we bid the other consultants, we'll have a budget number, and then whatever it comes in, where we started and where we are. Including contingency. Any unspent funds will be put in there, and any savings or potential adds.
So do you keep projection curves? So as we go through, let's just stay on the owner's rep one right now. So you start off with 80,000. There's a certain date in the future, that 80,000 intends to be consumed. So
You should get a percentage every,
I'm not looking for a percentage that we've spent, because I know I'm gonna get that. I'm looking for that we're staying on track as to, that we're gonna come in at that 80,000 figure. So
Well, we are, just
Their
for,
job for
yeah,
the rest of it,
our
yeah.
services were a lump sum for the project. So, unless the beyond, anybody's control,
way that number would increase was if the architect, let's say, designed a building and then someone came and said, hey, the building was designed with 20 classrooms, we want 4 more, right? Then there'll be additional services.
change order.
Yeah.
Aren't they wonderful?
That's how they make money.
Yeah. Oh, somehow.
I have a
Good.
question. Which doesn't matter whether we're talking Stanton or Greenville. It says for professional services rendered from March 2023 to April 2023. Could we include a date?
yeah, I can do that. So it should be from March 31st.
So it's not April at all. So,
No, so
so
it's meant to be April 1st or March 31st, I should have said.
It's just for March
Correct.
of
So-
2023 services.
so when can I ask you to resubmit? I don't have a problem approving it, resubmit it for accounting purposes with the correct.
Yeah, that would make sense. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
All right, so, do I have a first one on the agenda?
The
I just got
Stanton and
missed
Greenville.
this too, okay, so,
Yeah, go back to that.
all right, so, I guess we'll do Greenville first. For the amount of $16,169.95. I need a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Any discussion? Hearing none. Bill Ho?
Yes.
Peter?
yes,
Greg?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Sheila?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Mark, yes. Unanimous. Stanton School. Numbers $15,879.33.
Make the motion.
Stacy? Peter got there for the second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Bill?
Yes.
Peter? Yes. Greg?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Sheila?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Mark? Yes. That approves the invoices around the agenda. Thank you. Oh, you know what, you can forward them direct to Josh. I'll send Josh a note saying that we approved the action on them. So, and that you're gonna send them the updated ones, I'll give them the numbers. I'll give them the old ones. All right, anything else to be brought before the committee? I did want to talk briefly about, what we're gonna be doing in the future. So, I know the meeting after the meeting last month, there was a conversation about, and I was kind of surprised about the timing. We're going to have to start thinking about an architect and a construction manager. All right. So I think right now, after the discussion last month, unless something's changed, we're thinking an RFP going out sometime in June for an architect. So, late June. So that's, I think, where we're at with that. And then, so do we have, all right, you haven't started drafting that up yet or anything?
No, we have templates that we use, but we haven't started drafting in particular to these, either one of these.
But, as soon as we can, if it's possible to get one out,
In draft.
yeah, in draft
Your
form.
review. Sure.
Yeah, so that we can hand it out to the committee members and just to get them ready for that. I don't want to be, lollygagging on that too much. That's probably, it's, I will tell you from my experience, a good architectural situation is important, or maybe even to some extent even more important than having a decent CM. You obviously got to have a good construction manager, but an architect is very, very important. So, I know it's something I know DRA is interested in bidding on. There might be some other place, and I'm sure there's other groups that are interested in the business too, so. After that.
You're gonna do a construction manager also, right?
Yeah, well, hang on, that's come, so that would come a couple months later. So basically, once you get to the point where you're in the design phase, you would have the CM on board at least to be able to help deal with that, so.
We usually like to try to stagger it about a month.
A month?
Yeah,
Okay.
issue the architect, and then a month later, issue the CM.
Okay, so they're pretty close together. So we're gonna get started on both of those processes.
What would be the timeline for selecting an architect?
This summer, so late July, early August.
And then the CM,
CM
late
would be
August,
late
early
August or
September.
So we're gonna have stuff to do. Right.
Okay, we got nothing to do.
Right.
Interviews during.
Yes. Okay. Glad we're here, happen to be able to do it. So. All right, anyone have any questions about that?
Oh, no, not about that.
All right.
I don't know.
Anyone got anything else they want to add?
I do. So at the last meeting, we talked about there were two critical items that had to be in place. We've covered one with the school enrollment update. In order for us to meet the June deadline to make the application, the second item, which I don't have in my notes, but there were two items that we discussed. So there was
Probably the
educational specifications.
specifications, right?
They
So
were-
where are, just
So-
just an update.
So, yeah, I should have done this.
That's
during the
okay.
Chairman, or CSG progress update.
Okay.
So we had the initial kickoff meeting with the Board of Ed with Dr. Stringfellow and Bob Serpensky. Mark was there at the first meeting. Subsequent to that, about 2 weeks ago, we had another meeting with the superintendent. Bob was there again. Jim and our educational specialist, Roger, that's part of the team. We provided a draft set of educational specifications, which was just basically a template that we had used for other schools within the state, and, explained everything to the superintendent and Bob as to what we'd be looking for to have updated. And, we made as many updates as we could that related to Norwich, and gave the superintendent a deadline of April 27th, to provide us back our first draft. Their office provided that update to me yesterday night. So I quickly read through it. It looks really good. And the rest of our team is also reviewing that now. Roger, our education specialist, Jim's been looking at it. So it was very valuable to get that information as quickly as we did, because it'll just allow us to keep moving. So now, obviously it's a first draft. It has, all the spaces that they're looking for in it, narratives regarding the educational program and what they're going to be looking to do in the schools, and some site amenities and classroom amenities that they'll be looking for. So, I haven't gone through it in an extreme amount of detail, but I did read the introduction and some of the spaces because they were specifically concerned about what spaces they would have in the new buildings. So, as we process through this, when we get the enrollment report back, the enrollment numbers are really what's going to dictate the allowable square footage that we're going to have to design to. So, that component will be brought in and benchmarked against the spaces that were requested in the educational specifications. And should there be any square footage sizes or discrepancies or areas that won't work, we'll have to have discussions with them and with yourselves about, changes that may need to be made to bring the program into conformance with the state regulations, or whether or not the committee in town are looking to potentially build a school larger than the reimbursable size.
I know I will tell you that the master plan itself, I think, considered that it would be larger than so we'll see.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
So that process has been going really well. We did get the facilities comments from Matt Brown, the facilities director, and Matt Wazika, the IT director. There's probably, some folks still that we need to reach out with. I know the school-based health center member from the public was here last time, so we still need to, reach out to them and look at what's going on.
Pam Kinder, she's on Zoom
Oh,
here.
okay.
So she's listening.
I haven't had a chance to link up with her yet. I mean, it's still a little preliminary, but, we'll look at those spaces as well, as we move forward. So it was really good to get the first draft of the report in as early as we did. And, the enrollment figures will just help us continue once we receive those.
Thank you.
When do you think it'll be available?
I actually have correspondence from Cropper. I don't remember. I think
we'd like to go through the comments. Mike said we just got them last night, so.
What was the question? When we would have the enrollment update? Oh, yeah, there's probably gonna be 3 iterations at least before a final draft is issued of those. So there's still plenty of time for more comment. I was looking up, I did have a date on the enrollment. Let's see.
We can continue while you're looking.
Yeah, it
Well,
was,
no, I don't have anything else.
No, that was it. No.
okay, yeah.
So
But
next thing is Stacy's motion.
Second.
No, wait a second.
Wait a second now. We're gonna wait.
Okay.
We're gonna wait.
Well, then the only thing is that I would ask at the May agenda to have these 2 items under Chairman's
business?
report or old business or whatever you're gonna put it
Okay.
under, just so we keep them in front of us, okay? And
Well,
items like that in the future that we need to track.
Oh, so they're targeting May 3rd to have the updated enrollment numbers. So the estimate that was in the quote is much different than that, but, by expediting the data collection and everyone being extremely responsive from the BOE and the city, I'm just trying everything I can to keep to keep Cropper's work going as fast as possible and to expedite that, because the sooner we get the numbers, the faster we can continue working on the ed specs and the other forms that are required.
Okay.
Anything else? Hearing none?
Motion to adjourn.
Second by Sheila Hayes. That motion is not debatable.
It was
Bill
the first
Hall,
time.
Yeah, it was the first time.
It was just the first time it was debatable.
Peter? Yes. Greg?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Joe? Sheila?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Mark? Yes. Thank you, everybody. Time is 7:24. We stand adjourned.